All right, everyone. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Jason Levine, and it is lovely to see you here today on the Friday Masterclass, where we're going to be talking about editing and mixing with the awesome, modular, super cool Monogram Creative Console, formerly known as Palette Gear. And this is something I've actually wanted to do for a while because I'm always trying to find alternatives to the keyboard and mouse. Many of you who've watched me in the past know that I retain very few keyboard shortcuts. and you know, I'm just always looking for, one, more creative ways to edit and mix and do other things, but also looking at alternatives to kind of standard controllers. And if you've ever seen Palette Gear or now Monogram Creative Console, this stuff is awesome. It's super flexible. There's lots of different variations that you can use, and it ties directly into Premiere, Audition, After Effects, Lightroom Classic, and many more Adobe applications. So you're going to get a quick kind of look at that today and hopefully get excited. We've also got some of the Monogram people in the various chats. We're coming to you live across 3 different YouTube channels, Behance, and back on the Twitter today. So very glad to see you all. Thank you so much for joining. A couple of quick shout outs, of course, as always, before we get started. So you've got Sarah Tamburo, Umacorn, and Wade, Steve, Rick Adams. How is it going, everybody? Nice to see you. Got Stephanie and Jim over on our alternative audio and video channel there. Great to see you. Thank you so much for joining. Okay, so before we even get into the actual sort of demonstration of how this all works, I wanted to show you what these things look like. So first of all, this is kind of the grand box, the Creative Console Master that you can see here. Oh, it's also worth pointing out, if you want me to follow your chat, I'll pull this up. This is the chat that I'm following right there. So if you want to ask questions about this, we've got people again on all the different social networks and many that can answer questions specifically about this. But that's the chat that I'll be following live. Okay, so this is the box, and inside the box it has all of these different modules. This one being the orbiter here. This is my absolute fave. Then we've got the dials, which can be used for a number of different things, the different buttons, and then kind of the master here, which gives you a really beautiful little digital display of what preset you're working with. And we're going to kind of go through that. These are the modules themselves. Now, one of the things that I like to point out, first of all, these are modular modules. So you can kind of configure this in any way you want. So this is the orbiter. Here's our little 3-button config. And here are the dials here. And the way that you assemble these, it's pin to pad. So you simply click and snap. They snap together really nicely, magnetically. Ooh, there you go. They just fit really, really well. It's really solid. These all have a nice amount of weight to them too. So there's just something really elegant about creating these kind of custom configurations with this hardware. Right away, I love it. And again, there's just something it just feels solid. You know, I've used a couple different controllers on here before, and my main problem with most of them is that they feel very plastic and light, and there's just not enough. So if I'm using a tactile surface and it's just too plastic and too thin, I'm probably going to go back to a mouse. This has a really nice, solid, weighted tactile feel. There's also a fader, which you could use specifically for things like, mixing faders in Audition or Premiere. I don't have any of the faders. They too are really nice and weighted. I'm not quite sure if they're 100 millimeter. I don't believe so, but there's a lot of weight and you can really feel it as you're kind of, moving through and working with them. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and let's move over to Premiere. And more specifically, we're gonna pull up what's called the Monogram Creator. So what's really nice about this, so as mentioned here, let me give you just let me give you this first here. I'm gonna pull this up so you can actually see the configuration on the desk. Okay, so here it is. So I've set this up so you can see my hands on it. So here's the little custom config that I'm using. I'm not even using all of the modules, all right? They have many presets and you can customize this to contain as many of these as you want. I kind of go for a little simplified view here. You can see there's a little screen which is telling me we're currently in Premiere. Sorry if that's a little out of focus there. We're working with one of their own presets around Premiere Basics. And then this app that you see here, this is called the Monogram Creator. First and foremost, what I loved about this, USB I plugged it. I installed the Monogram Creator app, which you'll immediately, when you if you acquire this, you'll go to their website, download it. It installs easily for Mac or PC. It's really plug and play. You plug in fact, this little plug icon that you see here will tell you if your console is ready to control Premiere, Audition, After Effects, Lightroom. If it's amber colored, likely means that your app isn't running. Now, it actually works using an extension in the app. So in Premiere Pro, up in the extensions menu here, you'll see that it shows up as Monogram extension. Now, of course, you might be thinking, well, how do I acquire that extension? I'm not even sure where to go. Do we get that in CC Desktop? Where does that happen? Here's the amazing thing. Again, really well done design, really good UX, a great user experience for the moment of plugging it in. I had that amber light going on. I was like, oh no, what's going on? Hover over it and said, oh, you may not have the Adobe extension required for Premiere, Lightroom, etc. Would you like to download it? It downloaded, it installed automatically for all the apps. I didn't even have to do anything, and it just started working. So, that's just one of those really nice things. Plug and play makes it really simple. I didn't have to go Googling for an instruction manual. It does come with, you're seeing a lot of this kind of stuff today. This isn't really an official unboxing. By the way, the packaging is also really lovely, but you kind of get this quick start, thank you guide here. You can't really see it on stream, but there's like, it just tells you, plug it in, pin to pad, plug in the USB, grab the extension and start going. All right. By the way, also worth pointing out, this is not sponsored. This is just me trying out some hardware. Okay. So I'm just showing you something. I like it. I want to talk about it. That's that. We can get that out of the way. All right. So when you fire up the Creator Console here, let's go into New Profile, because this is actually the first thing that you'll likely do. I think it recommends that in the instructions as well. And right away, you'll see that you can choose, well, which app are you wanting to drive? Lightroom, Photoshop, Premiere, After Effects, Audition, Illustrator, InDesign, and even Capture One. All right. So naturally, we're going to focus today on these two. I haven't really given it a full test with After Effects. But again, if the fluidity and smoothness of what I've experienced in Premiere Pro is any indication, I'll probably start working with it in After Effects as well. And it's wonderful for Lightroom. And as someone who's never used, I don't use a Wacom tablet. I don't use any kind of a pen or anything like that. I've always used the mouse and very minimal keyboard shortcuts. Having specifically the orbiter here really changes the way you think about working with these applications and working with controllers. All right. So you choose one. In this case, maybe let's do another Premiere one here. Okay. Now this is another really lovely thing. Browse pre-built Monogram profiles. You've heard me say this a bunch of times on stream. I love it. Terry White shared this little line with me years ago. And it's one of those things which is, presets mean goodness. You can customize this. You can start from scratch. You can start not knowing how it all works and just kind of learn it that way. And that's great. But I love how it's like, yeah, absolutely. Show me some preset configurations to get started. I can figure out how to customize them afterwards. So I love this. It's just really well done, right? Preset starter profiles. All right. So we click done on that. And then you're presented with a series of different Premiere specific presets for controlling this configuration. All right. Now, what's also cool is that, again, you can augment and change the number of dials, number of sliders, number of keys, number of orbiters here. These are going to conform to the setup that you have. And it tells you briefly, via the title here, what they are. So here's one for editing, which I actually already have. Lumetri Basics, Lumetri Highlights, Lumetri Midtones and Shadows. So, in lieu of using something like a tangent controller, which I've, not being a colorist and not being a color correction pro, or more importantly, not having come up in that world of using, what was I going to call them? Are they orbs? Not orbiters. What are the balls? Am I 5? I'm laughing at that word. You know what I'm talking about, though. Those controller wheel ball things. I never felt comfortable with those. For using this now for like a 3-way color with the orbiters, ooh, it's very smooth, and you'll see in a moment. So again, for me, these are really nice, but I love starting with the presets. So that's exactly what I did. And if we come up here, you can see I've got a couple of them open already. So what's really nice is when I click over to Premiere, and I don't know if you can see down here on the screen, it's automatically detecting the one that I'm in, okay? Now just to kind of show you one more time here, I can click through these and you'll see on screen that it tells you which one I'm switching to, all right? Now I was talking to the Monogram guys earlier this week and I was saying, okay, you know, the problem with me is I can't remember keyboard shortcuts. So when I initially started working with this, I kept going back and forth to figure out what keys did what. And you can see that these are, as part of the preset, they're already pre-assigned. Well, here's something really cool. When you're in Premiere, I was initially going to keep that the creator off to the side. I've got these 2 buttons right here. Underneath are the brain. And if someone wants to chime in exactly what that's called, no problem. Oh, trackballs. Thank you, Chris. And why couldn't I remember that? This wasn't coming to me. All right. If you hold down both buttons, it gives you this overlay and shows you what everything is. So this is awesome because I am challenged when it comes to remembering these kinds of configurations. So wonderful, easy, awesome. And you can see that for this Lumetri Basics setup, we've got contrast, highlights, and shadows across the dials up at the top, reset white balance, reset exposure, and bypass for Lumetri. This is lovely because this is a quick way to do sort of a before and after in real time. Saturation, whites, blacks, and then the orbiter functions in 3 ways. When you turn it, it's going to adjust exposure, and then you have the ability to push, all right, and sort of ride horizontally or vertically for tint and temperature. So I'm going to show you those, all right? So here we have a video that I shot a while ago, you know, nothing fancy here of me. I'm inside the Lumetri color panel. What's also really cool about this is that the panel doesn't have to be in focus. So I'm going to show you right away. Let's just get started. So first I want to maybe adjust exposure. So I'm going to grab the orbiter here and just start adjusting exposure. And something that I just want to point out here, I'm going to move this faster. This control is ridiculously fluid. Not only is it physically fluid, but even as you're seeing, I kept Lumetri, the scopes sort of behind me, slightly obscured, but you're seeing the motion. Look at the motion of the exposure slider here. It's wonderfully fluid. Wonderfully fluid. This got me completely lost in using this because I'm like, oh, wow. Yeah, I can just dial it right in. Now, is it any different than doing this? Yes, because I'm not having to do this weird lateral motion and press down with my hand. This just feels right with the orbiter here. So smooth, fluid, natural, and weighted. Now, you'll notice that it's moving in, single stop increments or tenth increments here. This can also be adjusted if we go into the Monogram Creator. So we can tap on this and we can go into the customizations here. All right, and we can see all the various settings that we have. So if you wanted to change what that's doing specifically with regard to exposure, here's where you can adjust the steps. So you want it to move in, single increment steps or 5. Oh, you can't see it. It's obscured by the overlay there. Sorry about that. So steps are right here. All right. So let's change that to not 5 is a bit much. 10 is a bit much. So let's change it over to 5. All right. I don't even know if I have to leave. Yeah, I don't even have to leave the screen. Let me just zoom in. So now you can see as I move this, it's moving in steps of 5 now, as opposed to 1. This is also really well done that I don't even have to change the focus. It just works. All right. So, when you think about these things and kind of the design of how this stuff works, I've worked with a lot of these over the years, some better than others. This one was really intuitive. I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe I don't want so many steps, or maybe I want the increments to be larger. It's really easy to do that. And depending upon whatever you tap or click on here, so let's say I go to, let's get out of this, we're not going to change it. Again, if I go into contrast, it automatically brings me right into contrast here so I can make those changes. I can even customize the color. So you're noticing as I'm changing the color down here, it's also changing on the device. Now we're in yellow. seafoam green, sky blue, darker blue, magenta. All right, that's kind of, I think, the standard for most of the Premiere presets there. So really easy, really flexible to customize and make these your own. You can also completely change what button is doing what, either from scratch or in that same dialogue. All right. So again, if we just go back to Premiere real quickly here. All right, I adjusted my exposure. Now let's talk about this kind of multifunctionality of the orbiter here. So if I tap and press, all right, this is adjusting tint. Now this is doing the horizontal tap and press, okay? Now this might be one area you see as I'm tapping, I'm able to move in single steps here pretty easily. This might be one area where maybe you'd increase the steps a little bit, all right? Warm up those skin tones, actually, that's looking a little bit better. And then I'm gonna rock top and bottom here to do temperature, all right? I'm also, I'm finding, you know, this takes a little getting used to here because you see I'm also inadvertently moving tint. Yeah, I haven't quite nailed it exactly just yet. But again, it feels natural, it's fluid, and it's weighted. You know, I just love the weight of this thing. It feels comfortable. I remember when we had it, I don't know if anybody remembers Ink and Slide, kind of some ill-fated illustration hardware that we came out with quite a few years ago when we initially released some of our mobile apps. And I remember our internal presenter at the time, great guy, was saying that, you know, about the Adobe Ink, which was our pen, that it felt great in your hand. There was something it felt like a pencil, and it just felt wonderful. There's something that feels good about this. I don't know how to phrase it without getting weird. It just feels good. There's something really natural about it, right? And again, we can continue to work on some of these other controls. So contrast highlights, all right? Here's our highlight controls. Very easy, very fluid, really easy to see. All right, make those changes. All right, contrast. I'll lower the contrast a little bit. What else have we got in here? Saturation. Okay, yep, so maybe I want to saturate that a little bit more. Bypass, I remember that one. So there's the before, looking a little green. There's the after, already looking better. I got to be honest with you, you know, and you've heard me go through these trials many times. I actually feel like I'm getting better at doing color doing this. I don't know why that is. It's probably placebo effect, but there is something about using a surface to do it where I feel like I get to the color that I want more rapidly, if that makes any sense. It's just kind of been my experience. So again, the wonderful thing is here, notice I can also change the profile. So if I wanted to segue to this next one, you'll see it shows me down below. We're in Premiere 1. Here's what's also cool. If I change apps, I go over to Audition, it's automatically now switched over to one of the Audition profiles. You can see that the color is modified here as well. All right, the Audition standard colors. It's funny, it's taking over green because that used to be the Audition icon color. All of these things can be changed. But now we've got mixer controls. So you can see that we've got select track, pan selected track, master volume, selected track volume. So again, you know, if I wanted to go, where was master track volume? So it's this one over here. So here's our master mix down all the way to the right there. And, you know, if you'd like to do this, now again, I would probably use the fader for this, but it's very nice. It's very fluid. The increments are really, really good. I found that this is really wonderful for automation, right? In lieu of having sliders and in lieu of doing it with the mouse where you're riding the mouse, you can do some pretty dramatic sort of dial movements here that just work as designed. Now, let's go into a little limitation here. So I got very excited. In fact, this is why I set up actually these here, the vertical dials, because I was like, ooh, I can do a classic equalizer where I have gain up at the top, frequency in the middle, and then Q, or the width, the bandwidth. As I learned, unfortunately, they can't yet tap into the specific parametric EQ controls here at the moment. So we can't do that. That's not one of the functions just yet. on the Monogram side. I've talked to them, and hopefully maybe we'll see that come at some point. It's not a huge loss, to be honest, but I was a little bit excited about that. Not able to do that one thus far. But some of the other things, again, just doing simple things like pans. Oh, this was another great one. Time zoom, amplitude zoom, and shuttle. So in this particular preset, I don't think I didn't set a button to switch between editor and mixer. You can also assign those as well. But first and foremost, so doing sort of zooming via the controls here and track selection is really, really nice. So time zoom, again, really, really fluid, and it does the centered cursor here, all right, making those modifications. It's fast, it's fluid, it's as real time as you're thinking. Similarly, you know, horizontal zooms. You see me do this on stream all the time. And what am I always doing? I'm doing this like, you know, having to click and drag and, oh, I made a mistake there. Rescale. I've also got track select, right? Solo select. Oh, yeah, mute and solo for the selected track. So like here, solo mode, undo solo, mute mode, undo. Makes it really simple, really easy. It just works the way you'd expect, okay? And I found myself using kind of a combination of these controls as well as the keyboard. Now you can of course set up, in fact, I think another one of the profiles here, let me switch. Yeah, transport. So here's another one, by the way, different color configuration here. So for this one, you can see I've got select track. So I can do my track selections right here. This is really nice, okay? Nudging clips, so this is where editing comes into play. You can actually nudge and edit. If we go, so we can toggle playback. Okay, really easily. Again, you've got time zoom, shuttling. You can adjust playhead position here, which is real nice. You know, and you're noticing if you're looking at the video there, it's like super fluid, you know. And I was pushing this pretty hard. I always get a little bit worried with external controllers, especially when there's a video component involved. Audition's handling a video is a lot better than it was, but I always get a little nervous. I don't want to jinx myself. It's been pretty amazingly fluid here. Okay, checking on our chats here real quickly. All right. Wade saying, I do like the idea of a more tactile experience, though. Becoming a DJ-style creator has been a dream of mine. I mean, that's the thing. You could totally do that kind of stuff with this device in Audition or Premiere. Maybe not DJing per se, but yeah, it's really, really good. And, you know, if you kind of like getting your hands into it and kind of disconnecting, it works really well for that. Now, just back to Premiere for a second here, because I wanted to talk to you about a couple things. So I mentioned the ease of just plug and play. Again, it'll automatically install or tell you need to install that Monogram extension. This is wonderful. I'm going to close this project real quickly, though, just to point something out that I just wanted you to be aware of. This was something I ran into, and there's a request out to change this behavior, and this is actually on us. This is something to do with our SDK that we give, third-party companies to tap into to be able to control all the CC apps here. So, as you saw, the first thing that I went to do was I wanted to start adjusting exposure. So I'm going to quickly take this panel up here. I'm going to stick my history panel up here real quickly. And I'm just showing you this for total transparency. Now it's not a deal breaker by any stretch. And as I pointed out, and you know, I'm not selling you on this, I'm just telling you the truth. I started using this. I got lost for an hour color correcting. I actually made a whole bunch of presets, in fact. Here, I think my presets are here. I think this one, I loved this one. So again, just kind of regrading this clip. Here's the before. I really looked very green. Here's the after. All right. I got completely lost in this for well over an hour, just adjusting color without ever hitting or attempting to undo anything. And I think part of that was I was trying to acclimate my muscle memory to the feel of the orbiter, you know, to the feel of the dials and the buttons, and kind of getting used to, you know, this process, right? Well, one of the things that I noticed, and this is why I pulled up the history panel here, is that when I started to adjust exposure, oh, and here, hold on one second. Let me go back here for a second. Make sure we're connected. Oh, and which one do I want to be in? Let's change. Let's go back over to Lumetri Basics. Okay, back over Lumetri Basics. When I started to make adjustments here to exposure, pay attention to the history panel up at the top. Now I just changed that, 16 steps. Now 17 by accident here, or 16, whatever. 19 undos. This is not on the Monogram side. This is actually on Premiere's side. Now, you will not experience this if you do this in Lightroom. Lightroom and their SDK understands kind of the moment of, I guess it's a push or a press or whatever. You make those adjustments, and then when you release, you let go. And maybe there's a time duration. Maybe it's 500 milliseconds. I don't exactly know how that works. You'll have one undo state for that exposure change, right? Because that's what you do, right? You're like, okay, let's underexpose. That would be one undo state. Well, let's go back to here. That's another undo state. In this case, it's doing them with each increment. Now, if I change the increments to 5 instead of 1, yes, I'll have fewer undos unless I exceed the exposure. This is not a Monogram limitation. This is actually on our SDK side. So there's already a request to make that change. I just wanted to point that out because, like I said, I was doing this for over an hour, never went to undo. But when I went to undo, it's like, okay, wait, how come it's not sort of darker? And I found myself having to go way back and realized, oh, that's why, right? So multi-levels of undo, thankfully, but what you're seeing is it's creating those over and over. Now, the behavior is a little bit different in these different apps, right? Because of their SDK. Lightroom, it works exactly as you'd expect. Premiere Pro, it doesn't quite do that yet. Audition, the difference is the app itself by nature doesn't create undo states for things like faders here. Let me switch to the to this one. What was my master fader again? I can't remember these things at all. This is so wonderful. Master track volume here. So, for instance, this, now you can't see my undo history here. I'm going to pull it up real quickly. Stick it over there. All right. Making an adjustment to this fader here it's not an undo state. That's by design, because what will capture that is when you're in an automation mode, which, by the way, I think it was in the transport one. Does this have automation mode selection, or was it the previous one here? Forgetting. Automation mode. There you go. So you can change the automation mode. Now we're in latch. Now we're in touch. Now we're in write. That will capture the movement of your fader. That will capture the adjustment of your EQ, right? Whether it's Q, gain, bandwidth, frequency, what have you. That happens in the automation stage. It does not happen. It's not part of the undo history. Now, if you go into something like the editor, right, and you cut something out, yes, of course, there you have an undo, right? That makes sense. So there's different functions that actually apply to the history and other things that in Audition that are sort of by design, where again, I didn't hit that. I won't call it a limitation. I won't hit that issue at all because it just functions differently in the app here. Now, one of the other things that I really loved about this too, and let me remind me, was it in this one? Do this all day. Where is it? Where is it again? Spectral frequency scale, yes. So this is just another one of those nice things, I'm always zooming in spectral, right? Specifically like when we're talking about 50 cycle hum or 60 cycle hum or removing different noises, and we want to look at this less linearly, more logarithmically, or vice versa. This allows me to zoom down where now I have, and I can continue to use the mouse for that, of course, but I also have this dial control. And by the way, you'll see that when I made that physical change on screen, it's now adjusted the relative scale of how the dial works here, because that's actually how it would have worked with the mouse as well. So there's just some really awesome things that you can do with this. I highly recommend checking it out. And I believe, I think they're in the chat. They're even offering a discount code. I think it's Adobe 50. keep me honest on that, friends. If you go to Monogram, use a code Adobe 50 at checkout, you'll get a discount on the purchase of these of the Creator Console devices. So check that out. Again, they're going to be hanging around with questions. I highly recommend if you're looking for something cool, modular, flexible, and like I said, don't forget there's also a fader, which is solid and great. You definitely want to check that out. All right. Very cool. Oh, and I see Andy from Monogram's in here. He's saying, and if you really feel strongly about this, then please start a discussion on user voice. Absolutely. Thank you, Andy. Yes. And also, if anyone is currently using any of the, the Premiere Pro beta, remember that directly inside of the beta, you can submit feedback, which the engineers see truly on a daily basis. So user voice is amazing. They check that all the time. That's for, sort of all issues across all products, and it's really, that should be your first destination for sort of requests. Obviously, we've got the forums, and I see we've got Kevin Monahan in here, who's part of our support team, who can help you with all of those issues. But yes, definitely user voice and feedback from within the betas. If you're looking for a specific controller, changes to our SDK, or things that maybe we can coordinate with Monogram to make things an even better experience, highly recommend doing that. So I do want to thank them so much for letting me check this gear out. It's been awesome. And I'm going to continue to have a lot of fun with it. Like I said, I got completely lost in it. That doesn't happen too often. Despite my years, I've found that even my attention span for many things is way shorter these days. Usually I'm kind of in and out in 5-10 minutes. To be honest, and this is not a slam, it's just, I've got my fader port sitting over there. It just never worked for me in the way that I wanted. It's just, again, light, kind of plasticky. It has motorized faders, should be awesome, but I just never felt it didn't feel SSL-y enough. It didn't feel Neve-ish enough. It didn't feel mixer-ish enough to me. It's a great device, and I love the transport, actually, and there's some other functions. But as a larger device, it just took up a lot of space, and I wasn't using it a lot. This, this is, to be honest, if I were just doing Audition, this plus the little brain is all I'd need. That's it. Really simple. And of course, they sell different configurations as well. All right. Very cool. All right. I see we've got a lot of people chatting about that. All right. Kevin saying, yeah, I like the idea of having the undos on the jog shuttle, though. Yep. Very, very good. Okay, so now, my friends, for our last kind of 20-ish minutes or so, and I'm going to go ahead and stop the one stream. So thank you for those of you joining us on Adobe Video in Motion. See you next time. All right, we're going to end the stream over there. I was going to do sort of an AMA here for the last 25 minutes or so. As I told you, I will be going on sabbatical. Last year in October, I celebrated my 20th anniversary here at Adobe. And I've got some time off coming to me, so I won't be back live on Adobe Live until June 25th. So we're going to be doing some replays. I'm actually recording a specific new masterclass for you, so it'll be broadcast. It'll be broadcast live, but I won't be there. It'll be pre-recorded. But the chats will be live, and I think we're going to possibly replay some of the last. I saw people talking about Daily Creative Challenge just before. So if you're looking to get into After Effects, learn a couple cool things around there, I believe they're going to replay some of those. But in any case, we are going to be doing some replays, and again, I'll have some new content for you. But I thought we could use this opportunity to do a little Ask Me Anything, and I'm just going to click back to Audition real quickly here. All right, and I wanted to first just play for you the final mix for the NFT collab that I composed and worked alongside with Paul Trani. So this is now actually available on Foundation. So if you go up to Foundation, you can find this there. It is called the Cryptonaut, right? Because there's a little astronaut in there. But this is all about crypto, so it's called the Cryptonaut. And here is, now you're going to hear it in mono, unfortunately. I can probably turn the noise reduction off, so it's some to mono right now for the stream. I'm not hearing it in stereo, but You can hear it on Foundation if you want. For the low, low price of, no, I'll let you find that out yourself. But in any case, here was the final mix of that. Just did a weird loop there. That's weird. Oh, did I open the wrong variation? I didn't open up 2A. That's why. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, sorry. I was like, oh wait, no, I faded that last do-do out. It should really have been this. I just screwed up my own thing. Gosh darn. There you go. So it's nice and loopable. It's very lovely. Is the sound coming through okay? I know it's, you know, being monified. It's not going to be as good. I'm curious. Let me hear it in mono here. Yes, Kevin, it is minted. So it is up on Foundation. So check it out. You can find it under my name, under Beetlejace. And just got it minted and listed up there. So pretty exciting stuff. So anyway, yeah, this was a lot of fun to work on. And, you know, we got to experiment with different sound design. And, you know, my favorite part, a lot of it after we met was just over the weekend, I just worked on adjusting where things come into play and adding more of the Foley to kind of, you know, really go through all of the electronic sounds and everything. In fact, here, I'll just play a couple of those since you got to hear this kind of in progress. I think that's everything. Yeah, that should be it right here. So this is just the sound design. Am I missing anything? I don't think so. Oh, it's a little quiet. Let me pump this up for the stream. Pump it up. Make it super loud. Or louder. It won't be super loud. It's kind of quiet. Right. And the whole idea here is that we're trying to mimic motion with sound, right? I see. Andy Hayes is saying, love it. I also feel better that even someone at Jason's level makes project names that end in final version 2 dash no really final this time. I mean, right? You can't still doing it. And just on that. So this is before I had come up with Kryptonaut. So this is the Kryptonaut NFT. Variation 2, key of F, but like as you saw in the recents here, I mean, you can see all of these things, right? You know, like, you know, copy, resave. A lot of it is the version number, what it is, variation 1A. You know, there's so much of that. 16-bit stereo. Oh, here's the final one with the fade out key. You know, this is the 16-bit mix that we minted. So yeah, I can't get past that because this way, you know, everybody has their own little weird system. But I try and avoid. You probably thought F was for final. It actually meant the key of F, but I try and avoid doing final. I still do it. I don't know why, because it's never final, right? 2 seconds before I publish something or, you know, upload a song to Spotify, I'm like, oh, I make one tweak. I've done that, by the way, 3 times, and I've been very unhappy about it. You heard me talk about it on stream here before. There's a song of mine up there called Sabi Sabi, and literally, as I was uploading this to my digital distributor, I decided, no, I need to make a change to the master. I remastered the thing, and it was like 4 in the morning. Bad choice. Bad choice. Oh, and Steve is saying, yes, good sound. Awesome. Okay, that's very good to know. Thank you, Steve. Okay, so that's a little bit on that. I also wanted to share with you. So while I'm going to be on sabbatical, I will not be... I won't be completely off the grid. In fact, for a while, I'll be very much on the grid. I think this is the version that I want. So I think I told you, so I have a couple of different recording projects that I'm engineering and producing, including a couple of my own, as well as, this may not be the project, as well as a time-limited podcast that I'm planning on working on. This is one of those songs that I just thought I'd play you just real quickly, since we're kind of in this AMA thing. This is a song, so I've talked about it and shown it and played bits of it before. It's called Open Mouth Chomper. This doesn't have vocals yet, so this is the basic tracks. These recorded over a year and a half ago, actually in September 2019. I'm just now getting around to actually mixing it, and during the sabbatical, I'll probably do the overdubs and release this one. Maybe shoot a music video. I don't know. This is, again, one of my kids' songs, so if you're wondering, why is he singing about... Well, you're not going to hear me singing. This is instrumental at the moment, but it's about chewing with your mouth open, which is gross. Steve is saying, no search function on the Foundation site? Yeah, you know, funny you say that. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't remember. So yeah, you'd probably have to look in. It's not sold yet. It's just listed, so probably have to scroll for a while. It seems odd that there's no search. I'd go there right now, but I don't have my my wallet and everything launched up. But yeah, see if you can find it on there. I'm going to tweet it out later, so if you follow me on Twitter, you'll be able to see it there. I wish there were a direct. There's probably a direct link. Actually, there is. There's a link I can share. I'll get it before we sign off. In any case, I wanted to play this for you. And hold on, I'm just going to switch back over to my camera for a second. And let me see if I can get this. I wanted to pull up kind of a before and after. So I got a couple of questions over the weekend, oddly enough, about, you know, sort of mastered and pre-mastered and what's the difference and how do they sound different and whatever. So I wanted to kind of give you a first-hand listen at pre-mastered and mastered. Now, again, these are getting summed into mono. Not that I want it to be that way. I had noise reduction on today, so you'll hear these in mono. Although, as we decided and figured out a couple of weeks ago when I was showing you how to do that, it's actually compatible for mono, so it still sounds good. It's just you're not hearing it in stereo. So this is the final mix of the basic tracks, bass, drums, and acoustic piano with some room ambience. And you'll kind of hear, and there's no, if you look on my master fader here, or my mix fader, there's no effects on the mix bus. So I'm not adding any compression to anything. I'm not adding any limiting. It's just as it is mixed. Tons of plugins for everything, as always, right? And in fact, I even had 2 different drum takes. I played a take of drums, and then I had my buddy Chip do another take of drums here. But so tons of plugins, but nothing on the mix fader, the 2-mix fader. So just take a quick listen here of this sort of mixed but not mastered, all right? Okay. Reverb Mike is back on tour. I'll be in the cabin in the woods writing my manifesto. You actually don't know how true that kind of is, man. I will be camping. I will be in Alaska. And I probably won't be writing, but I will be completely off the grid. So who knows? Maybe not a manifesto. Probably more lyrics about flatulence or slipping on banana peels or something. I don't know why my mind just goes there. You know, melodically, I like to think it's more advanced, but, you know, lyrically, I rely on farts. I don't know why that is. Kevin's question here on remix. How does one get different variations given the same duration? I often get a bad result on short durations. Okay, I'll cover that in just a sec, Kev. Actually, we can do it with my own track here. So this was the pre-master track. Now I'm looking and I can see on the volume levels, it's obviously quieter. So if you turned up to hear that, dial it back down, because here is the mastered version. Now this is gonna be loud. Obviously, again, I mastered this as I would if this were a finished record. And because it's really bare bones, it's pumping, it's loud. But you'll hear the difference, and you'll hear how adding just really a little bit of EQ, a little bit of multiband compression, and some brick wall limiting, and this was all done with native effects, really gives just a bigger, punchier, broader sound. And it's also worth pointing out for my audio nerd friends, on the drums specifically, let me just highlight these for 1 second. All right. So if you just look at the plugins that I've got going on here, all right, so I've got Shep's Omni. So this is a Waves plugin. I've got a couple of different compressors there, a lot of Shep's, and some Manny Marroquin EQ. And then on the bus master of the drums, so all the drums feed into a stereo bus, I've got the Fairchild 670, which is again, or the Puig Child. This is an emulation of the classic Fairchild 670 limiter that the Beatles used at Abbey Road and a gazillion other bands in the 60s and 70s used. No reverb. That's because all of the ambience that you're seeing was captured with a distant room mic. So there's no additional reverb on any of this. So when I go and play you this, you're going to hear that the drums sound pretty wet and pretty vibrant. It's just natural room ambience, right? So just careful mic positioning. That's it. And it just makes for a really big and thick and punchy drum sound. So take a quick listen. Skip a little section here. Okay. And just for reference, let's go back to the unmastered version here. I mean, first and foremost, obviously amplitude, right? So, in mastering, what I always say is, yes, you're just trying to make things louder. I often say a little bit louder. These days, you're trying to make it actually quite a bit louder. Maybe a little wider, maybe via a little stereo expansion. I panned things not terribly aggressively here. That's the other thing. The exception of like floor tom and rack tom. Floor is 100% right. Rack is 24% left. But everything else is pretty standard. Kick and snare right in the center. I think I've got the bass also right in the center here. Yeah, I often do like center pan for bass. I didn't do that this time. As I click back to these other ones here. All right. Real simple stuff, but it's just super punchy and loud. All right, so let's look at remix for a second here. So we've shown this a bunch of times. Where is that file? I'll actually grab my mix of it. That makes sense. All right, and here, let me first make a new track. Stereo track. I'm just going to solo this, and this should work because I don't have any reverb buses, so we shouldn't hear any bleed. Let me just turn this down again. Prepare yourself for just a second. This might be just a little too loud. Wait, now you don't want to know what the lyrics are? So wait, if you go to my YouTube channel, Jason Levine Video, if you search Open Mouth Chomper, you'll see a live version that we did. I think this is actually in the Twitch days. So again, a lot of these songs I've just written, I had a period where I just wrote about 3 dozen. We haven't done Twitch since 2015, 2016, so they've been around. But I did a live version of this on there, and then you can hear the lyrics. It's also subtitled, so they're really funny. The lyrics are, I always say this, they're some of my favorites, some of my best, I think. Adults won't hate them. Kids will laugh and get some of them, but there's a lot of little subtle kind of adulty jokes in there. Nothing inappropriate, but I think you'd appreciate the lyric. So remix, for those of you unfamiliar, is the ability to dynamically recompose music in the timeline in real time, and it uses Adobe Sensei. And what it does is it finds suitable edit points. So like in this case, this particular track is approximately, oh, here, let me go into time. It's approximately 3 minutes in duration, actually. It's exactly 3 minutes. Look at that, really nailed it. For a 3-minute pop song, right? What if I needed to have this be 30 seconds? Now this track is a little unique in that it actually has a coda where it stops and then it comes back. So we might get a weird result on this, but I'm always curious to see what it does. So in the properties panel, you have a couple of ways that you can enable this, all right? So we obviously have stretch in there. We're gonna look at remix here. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to enable remix. And when I do that, what it does is it analyzes your clip. It's looking at the beat structure, at the harmonic structure, and then it's looking for sort of an ideal way to edit this. So up in remix in the project panel here, I can say, well, what's my target duration? All right, well, let's say instead of 3 minutes, let's do what I just said. Let's make it 30 seconds. No idea how well that's gonna go, but let's see. All right, click down here. And what you're gonna see, now this is what I was talking about. See, it left the coda at the end because it figured that was something important. And this is probably the very beginning, but it found, that's what these wiggly lines represent, 2 suitable edit points, which should be sonically seamless. So let's hear what those sound like. I'm curious. Now this is AI, so, and it's not, you know, it's not an AI music computer per se. It's just an AI algorithm that kind of understands beat structure, maybe not pattern, maybe not key necessarily. I say this because sometimes it'll edit, you know, on the 5th beat of something as opposed, and if it's in 4/4 time, right, kind of maybe sometimes can throw it off. Let's see how it did. So it edited perfectly, actually. This one in particular, this edit right here, and you're not seeing, let me see if I can recolor this so you can get some better contrast. Blue, it's gonna work better. Maybe that purple. These are all a little hard to see. This first edit right here, so this wiggly line represents an edit point. It's totally seamless. This second one, it's in the middle of a crossfade because it's right on the beat where he's doing kind of a cymbal roll. So I don't love that. So Kevin was asking, how can you get different variations on the same duration? So there's a couple things you can do. First of all, you can decide up in the properties panel how long you want the edits to be, whether you want to focus, again, more on sort of the harmonic structure or the timbre, and then the minimum loop in a number of beats, as well as maximum slack. That's how much on the beginning or end that it actually has. So you can see here, the maximum slack is 5 seconds. This is actually a 35-second remix because it left some breathing room at the top and tail. This is pretty common. If you wanted an exact duration, you can do that as well, but then it is in fact going to implement stretching, so it can change the overall sonic quality quite significantly. So use that only if you absolutely need like a very specific duration and you're not nailing it with this. The minimum slack, the minimum is 5 seconds, but it doesn't always leave a 5-second tail. If I got rid of that little coda at the end, I imagine we'd actually be a lot closer to that 30-second duration. But if we change the edit length, see, this is such a small piece anyway. Oh, now you can see there. So I'm going with really short edits. Now look, there's a whole series of them, okay? So here we can listen to this and hear what those sound like. phasey snare in there. Okay, the ending got really weird there, but this edit right here, this one was actually pretty good. Like, it really did a recomposition of very short phrases. Now, does that sound perfect? Maybe, maybe not, but it depends on what it's going underneath, right? So that's kind of the point. You've got a lot of flexibility. I highly recommend checking out Remix. Unfortunately, friends, that is all the time we have. So until I return on June 25th, have a great beginning of your summer. Have a great rest of your May and beginning of June. Thank you so much for watching. You can catch the replays, and we'll see you again next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.